Goodbye 2021, thanks for coming. Another year down, another year closer to the pit. 2021 was an odd year for wrestling, not quite as odd as 2020 granted, but this year's had some pretty seismic shifts to the industry and flavors both good and bad. Fans returned, that's good. WWE stepped up its release game, that's bad. CM Punk returned, that's good, but the Frogger is also cursed. That's bad. To celebrate the dichotomy between excellent and terrible, I'm going to be coming at you with two top 10s to see out the list, my top 10 favorite matches of the year, and the top 10 worst matches to grace our pay-per-view screens. Let's get my favorites out of the way so we can save the worst ones for pudding. I'm Adam, hailing from partsFUNknown, and here are my 10 favorite wrestling matches of 2021. And while you're here, why not make a New Year's resolution to be a better person and subscribe to partsFUNknown so you can get an update whenever we release one of our cool wrestling videos. Are wrestling videos cool? No! Subscribe anyway. Number 10, Britt Baker versus Thunder Rosa, Lights Out, Dynamite. Blood, blood, blood. For those used to WWE programming for the last decade, the Crimson Spectre has been something of a silent guardian, a watchful protector, a dark knight. But in AEW, they love a little bit of it and saying as well. Blood and saying the word Ooh, AEW, you're hard. I'm mostly kidding, especially when AEW uses the red stuff to make a match feel more deadly, more unsanctioned, more important. The best example of that, and possibly the best death match of the year, was Britt Baker versus Thunder Rosa. Their series of matches had been low-key AEW's version of Steamboat and Flair for a while, but on the March 17th episode of Dynamite, the two women got the showcase their feud deserved, a main event slot on one of AEW's most protected stipulations, the Lights Out match, a stip that carries the same hushed tones and gravity that Hell in a Cell used to have. The match is full of deathmatch stuntitude, including an eye-watering thumbtack spot, the kind of spots that are all too rare in women's wrestling. Apparently, Tony Khan is planning something big for Baker and Rosa in 2022. Makes sense, considering that when they wrestle each other, it's violent magic. Number 9, Bryan Danielson versus Minoru Suzuki, Rampage Kickoff. And speaking of violence, holy it's the most amount of vicious strikes to hit YouTube since the adpocalypse. It is borderline unfathomable that this dream match between two of the founding members of the You're Gonna Get Your Head Kicked In party was given away for free on a Rampage buy-in YouTube show to compete with SmackDown running long. And hell, if the two biggest companies in the US decide to showcase their pettiness this way, then long may the Mean Girl shenanigans reign, because this was 20 minutes of technical prowess, smooth reversals, and of course, people getting their brains fundamentally altered with some of the most shoot-like wrestle violence this side of a Walter joint. For fans of wrestling narrative, there's not much here, but for those that still see the process as the spectacle, and for those unaware of a certain murder grandpa, then this is a must-see. Bryan Danielson is having the time of his life at the moment, doing good wrestling for the sake of good wrestling. See also his masterclass of stiffness against Eddie Kingston, phrasing. Number 8, MJF versus Darby Allin, Full Gear. It's always nice to see a match that makes you sit back and think, the future of the business is in safe hands. See also Bret Hart versus Mr. Perfect at SummerSlam 91, The Rock versus Triple H at SummerSlam 98, and at Full Gear we got another statement piece when MJF went up against Darby Allin, two of the four pillars of AEW colliding to prove who will be the next main man, and absolutely the right guy won. MJF is so good at promos that sometimes people think that's all he's good at, but those people are wrong and stupid, and they smell too. It's a match with a little bit of everything, that bit where both people kip up at the same time. Wrestling fans really like that bit. Fluid chain wrestling, distinct character work, convincing false finishes. It's wonderful stuff. Right now, with a huge influx of big names, AEW has become an amalgamation of homegrown talent and import, and while that's fantastic and is one of the main reasons it's currently on fire as a promotion, there's just something heartwarming about two of its homegrown talent being given this match with this length, with this placement on the card on one of the biggest shows of the year. Number 7, Sasha Banks versus Bianca Belair, WrestleMania 37. And when you talk about matches elevated by the statement they're making, sometimes wrestling fans tell WWE what they want, and WWE say, okay, you can have it, and don't mess with it at all. And it's pretty much always amazing, and I don't understand why they don't do it more. People wanted Sasha Banks versus Bianca Belair to main event WrestleMania 37. They did, there were fans there, and everyone was so supportive, and the two women were so happy, and I'm sorry, but that just makes a match more enjoyable for me. Is it the match with the most moves in it? No. Was it quite as good between the ropes as the triple threat at Crown Jewel? No, but wrestling matches have a number of things that make them personally special. Match quality, sure, but also surprises, the narrative, and in this case, a sense of occasion. The crowning of Bianca Belair in a WrestleMania main event. The best argument there is for two-night WrestleManias, by the way. And also the match itself was pretty great. That hair spot Jesus F. Christ. Number 6, Edge versus Seth Rollins, Hell in a Cell, Crown Jewel. In this case, a match that managed to deliver despite its sense of occasion, not because of it. We've been pretty upfront about how much WWE Saudi shows are quite literally a bloody disgrace, so you can imagine how annoyed we were when Crown Jewel was actually pretty good, with a really solid main event, a Xavier Woods feel-good moment of the year, and then there's this, WWE's best Hell in a Cell match in God knows how long, brutal without having to be bloody, epic without overstaying its welcome, and finally, a Cell match that came about because of the context of the feud, not because it was that time of year again. Seth Rollins has been magic in WWE for ages. Genuinely, at this rate, he's Shawn Michaels levels of in-ring reliable, and their trilogy is also some of Edge's best work of his career. While I'd have liked to have had their SummerSlam match on this list, because it didn't happen in the Unmagic Kingdom, there's no denying that this was their best. It ruled so hard. That bit where Seth bounced off the wall into the table, or the bit with the chain on his foot, it ruled. Number 5, Roman Reigns versus Edge versus Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania 37. All three men involved in this match might legitimately be having the best years of their respective careers. Roman Reigns has ascended to godhood, Bryan Danielson is the American Dragon once more, and Edge is finally living up to legend status. All three men collided in the main event of Mania Night 2, and holy shit, though, what a match. Is Reigns versus Bryan, aka Bryan's last WWE match, technically better? Absolutely, but this was a barnstormer in front of a crowd, and that makes all the difference. Also, the fact that it legitimately could have gone either way, there was an argument for Reigns, Edge, even Bryan all walking away with the W, making some of the false finishes into true heart stoppers. Once it got going, it never stopped. Gave us a spot of the year in the double submission headbutt extravaganza, and though we didn't know it at the time, it would end up being Daniel Bryan's final pay-per-view match in WWE. It was a hell of a send-off. And speaking of the GOAT, number 4, Bryan Danielson versus Kenny Omega, Dynamite. No, it's not number 1, and that's fine. Trust me, it's fine. But even so, it bears noting that in the year of our Lord 2021, AEW had a match of the year candidate, and it was a time limit draw. That for me is what marks Tony Khan's legs and arms as the perfect hybrid promotion. The physicality and athleticism of the present mixed with the slow build, spectacle psychology of wrestling's past. A marquee match that neither man could afford to lose, neither man did, so now AEW has the rematch in their pocket whenever they like. It's simple, comprehensive stuff. Oh, and also, the match itself was insanely good, bolstered by a nuclear crowd that understood exactly how significant the match they were seeing was. It genuinely had that throwback feel, the best wrestler from another territory coming in to channel that promotion's top guy. And amazingly, it lived up to the hype, being in turn fast, brutal, technical, two of the best wrestlers in the world, crafting something really special together. Am I as likely to go back and rewatch it, knowing that a tied finish is coming? Not so much, but it's still a landmark achievement in professional wrestling. Number 3, the men's Money in the Bank match, Money in the Bank. Despite WWE having an absolute shocker of a year from a PR perspective, between Saudi, the releases, setting fire to NXT, WWE are one kicked puppy away from being Satan's favorite company. Despite all of that, I couldn't help it. I loved Money in the Bank, WWE's first pay-per-view in front of a live crowd since The Thing. The main event was stellar. John Cena's return was one of the biggest pops I've ever seen, but this match was the highlight for me. I've thought about it, and I think it might just be my favorite Money in the Bank ladder match ever. My condolences to everyone on Peacock who didn't get to properly enjoy it. Sorry about that. Don't live in America, I guess. The live crowd wanted every single bit of it. The action was non-stop. The lineup was redonkulous. Ricochet finally got to do some stuff. Good for him. Same with John Morrison. Kevin Owens got to take the most dangerous spot, as is tradition. And best of all, Big E won. We didn't think he would win. We didn't think they'd ever do the nice thing, but they did. They did the nice thing in front of everyone. Hooray! A rousing welcome back for live wrestling and a true heartwarming spectacle. Number 2, Lucha Bros versus Young Bucks, All Out. Lol, this match is dumb, but sometimes that's exactly what you're in the mood for. 4 of the most acrobatically gifted wrestlers to ever live, the mad alchemists of intricate spot work, getting 20 minutes to go mental in a box, deep in the heart of one of the greatest top-to-bottom pay-per-views produced in the USA. And some of the things the Bucks and the Bros did in that cage were very silly indeed. The thumbtack boot, the leap from the top of the cage, the Canadian Destroyer from the top rope, some of the funniest low blows in wrestling history, and that false finish where Phoenix just hops up from the mat to break it up just in time. It is the most cage match, possibly of all time. And it seems that's going to be the Young Bucks and Lucha Bros thing in AEW, an enduring rivalry that they come back to every year or so, where they just happen to put together the best example of a stipulation in wrestling history. At All Out 2019, they did the best ladder match. At All Out 2021, the best cage match. Can't wait until All Out 2023 when we see the Young Bucks versus Lucha Bros in the best tuxedo match in wrestling history. And number one, Walter versus Ilya Dragunov, NXT TakeOver 36. Just yes, please. Last year, I put the first Walter versus Ilya Dragunov match at number 2 on my list of best matches of the year. How did WWE improve it? By having it in front of a live crowd and by having David finally topple Goliath. While Cross versus Joe might have been the main event of the last ever NXT TakeOver, I'm choosing to remember this as the last match of NXT's Black and Gold. And it's a perfect encapsulation of everything I used to adore about that brand. Earnest and emotional storytelling told long-term, realistic violence, a steady escalation without overindulging on false finish excess, giving the talent room to work. It's throwback, strongman era, ludicrous violence perfection. For taking otherwise mundane moves and turning them into showpieces, I mean, for f***'s sake, the match ends with a sleeper hold. Walter might just be the greatest wrestler alive. He's certainly a master at turning out unique matches that no one else can provide. As a match, it is eye-wateringly violent. As a last look back at the glory years of NXT, it's also eye-watering, just for a different reason. I'm not going to say anything more about the match. Go and watch it if you haven't. It's f***ing exceptional. And that's our list. What was your favorite match of 2021? Let me know below in the comments, and don't forget to like and share this video around if you enjoyed it. And make sure you subscribe to partsFUNknown for all of our wrestling content as we go into 2022. Happy New Year, Merry Christmas, and jam that jam.